The quietest one in the room is often the one who already knows how the story ends. Let's not sugarcoat it. These people weren't just underestimating you, they were actively trying to erase you, smiling in your face while they plotted behind your back, hoping your silence meant weakness. But here's the catch. You weren't silent because you were scared. You were silent because you were watching, measuring, calculating. And now, the storm is here, and they're realizing too late that they weren't just playing against you. They were picking a fight with the universe itself. They thought they were peeling away your power. What they were really doing was peeling off their own masks, exposing everything they didn't want seen. You didn't ruin them. Their own energy came back like a mirror. That's what happens when you try to corner someone the universe chose. You don't just lose, you break. If you're a chosen one and you're hearing this, stop scrolling. Like this video and subscribe right now. It might sound simple, but every click pushes this message further. It tells the algorithm, no, it tells the system that you're not alone, that we're out here, that we're waking up, linking up, and that their games are being exposed one message at a time. Help get this message in front of every chosen one who forgot what they are. It's time. You were never just another face in the crowd. You've always felt that pull, that strange weight on your shoulders, that sense that you were seeing the world from a slightly different angle than everyone else. That's not imagination, that's awareness. You know things you shouldn't know. You pick up on shifts that others don't feel. You've always been 2 steps ahead, even when you were at your lowest. And that's what haunts them. It's not just your presence, it's your knowing. It's the fact that without ever saying a word, you make people feel exposed, uneasy, watched, not because you're judging them, but because your energy makes their lies tremble. You don't need proof. You are the proof. The universe doesn't put that kind of vision into someone for no reason. You're a living message. You're walking clarity. But here's where I get real with you. Stop thinking you're alone. That's the lie they want you to swallow. The moment you begin to doubt your light, you give their shadows room to grow. And you weren't made to live in their darkness. You are the light that was sent to disrupt it. You are what their illusions can't survive. They called you dramatic, paranoid, sensitive. But really, you were just tuned in. While they were busy chasing clout, you were decoding patterns, reading body language like it was a second language, watching every fake smile crumble just a little when your eyes met theirs. They knew. Deep down, they knew. That's why they tried to isolate you. That's why they called you crazy. Because chosen ones don't follow the script. They rewrite it. The power of being chosen isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's not a title. It's a frequency. And it disrupts everything that was built on lies. People feel it in their bones when you walk in the room. You don't have to say a word. You could be sitting in the corner, head down, and still feel like a threat. That's not intimidation. That's divine disruption. So if they're talking about you, good. Let them. If they're uncomfortable, perfect. That's how you know you're doing it right. Because when the universe chooses someone, it doesn't make them loud. It makes them undeniable. And you were never here to blend in. You were born to be the glitch in their matrix. So if you've been feeling that quiet pressure in your chest, like the world's been whispering about you when you're not around, you're not imagining it. They feel that you know more than you say, and it scares them. Because silence, backed by knowing, that's the most dangerous weapon of all. If this message is hitting something deep, drop the number 77 in the comments. Let the others know you're tuned in. And stay with me, because what's coming next? It's not just words, it's a mirror. If you really are one of the chosen, you won't be able to look away. Let's get into it. Number 1, they played with fire and didn't know you were the flame. Let's get one thing straight. They never expected the quiet one to carry this much weight. They never saw you coming. That's the part that rattles them the most. You moved like still water, but underneath, you were boiling, watching, listening, putting the pieces together in silence while they laughed behind closed doors, thinking they were getting away with it. But they weren't outsmarting you. They were playing themselves in a game the universe already rigged in your favor. They moved against you like you were alone, like you didn't have a force bigger than them guiding you. That's the mistake they made, thinking you were playing by the same rules. But you're not even playing their game. You are the game changer, the glitch in their perfect little script. And now they're scrambling, because chosen ones don't fight back like everyone else. We let the universe do the heavy lifting. We stay aligned, and alignment makes noise in silence. Let's talk about those moments. They'll come flooding back now. That one job, that missed opportunity, that backhanded compliment masked as advice, the subtle digs, the fake apologies, the way they kept you on the outside of the room while pretending to smile. You didn't imagine that energy. You felt it for what it was. Because chosen ones don't need proof. They feel the shift in the air. And now, they feel it too. That burning discomfort they carry around when they hear your name. That nervous glance when you walk into a room, that's not paranoia. It's awareness. You were never clueless. You were never too sensitive. You were built to detect what others deny. The gift of insight isn't easy to carry, but it's what separates you, what makes them whisper, "Be careful with that one. They know too much." Damn right you do. They kept throwing shadows your way, hoping you'd trip. But instead, you built a map. You saw the pattern. They thought they could gaslight the truth into silence, but you were born with a compass that points straight to it. And now, the truth is catching up. Fast. That's what's making them panic. That's why they keep your name in their mouth, even when you're not around. That's why they watch you from fake accounts. They can feel it in their bones, that they underestimated the wrong soul. You were never the fool. You just let them think you were. And oh, how loud the silence gets when the one they counted out turns out to be the one holding the blueprint. You're not just steps ahead. You are the step. You set the pace. You bend the timing. You shift the atmosphere without even trying. That's the kind of power you carry, and that's why they're afraid. But let's not ignore the other voice here, the one in your own head, the one that sometimes whispers, maybe they're right, maybe I'm just imagining things, maybe I'm not that special. Kill that thought. Burn it. You think the universe would go out of its way to equip you with this kind of perception, this kind of inner radar, just for you to question it every time people get uncomfortable around your truth. You think you'd be seeing behind the curtain for no reason? Nah. You were given that lens because you were meant to expose what others can't even see. Stop doubting yourself just because they're louder. Loud lies fall apart. Quiet truth always stands. And I'll tell you this, when you're chosen, the universe bends. Doors open last minute. Help shows up in strange ways. Time stretches for you. People who tried to stop you mysteriously get moved out of your path. And they call it coincidence. They call it luck. But we both know what it is. It's alignment. It's universal backup. When you are chosen, the system works for you, not because you're better than anyone, but because you're carrying a purpose bigger than their games. And oh, they hate that. They hate how things seem to work out for you, even when they do everything to block you. They hate how your intuition makes them nervous, how your presence shakes up rooms they thought they controlled. You don't need a crown to be royalty. You walk like truth, and truth doesn't beg for validation. You know what else scares them? That you're not even angry. That's the part they can't understand. You're not chasing revenge. You're not trying to prove anything. You're just watching, just moving, just growing. That kind of peace? It's louder than any scream. So if they're avoiding you now, if they're acting strange, good. Let them. If people you thought were solid are backing away, let them fall off. That's not rejection. That's realignment. The universe clears the path when it's time to elevate. Your circle gets tighter so your vision can get clearer. And the higher you go, the quieter it gets. Because not everyone can breathe at your altitude. They tried to throw dirt on your name. Didn't realize you were soil. They tried to write you off. Didn't know you were the pen. They tried to dim your light. Didn't realize you were the sun. So let them talk, let them whisper, let them panic. Because the truth is, they were never fighting just you. They were going toe-to-toe with the universe's chosen, and no one wins that battle. Remember this: silence doesn't mean blind. Isolation doesn't mean powerless. And peace? Peace is the war strategy of the chosen. So stand tall, walk heavy, and when they look at you with fear in their eyes, just smile. Because now they know that you knew, and you always did. Number 2, right place, right time? No. Right soul, right alignment. Let them keep saying it's a coincidence. Let them pretend they're not watching your every move now, trying to copy your timing, your instincts, your decisions. But deep down, even they know this isn't chance. This is cosmic alignment. This is what happens when the universe steps in for one of its chosen. You've felt it, the way life tilts in your favor at the last second, the near misses that should have taken you out, but didn't, the moments where you should have crumbled, but something unseen caught you every time. You didn't always understand it. You questioned it. You even doubted it. But now it's undeniable. They watched you walk away from situations right before they blew up, watched you step into opportunities that looked small until they exploded into gold. You called it intuition, but let's call it what it really is: cosmic guidance. The universe aligning its path with yours because you weren't just here to survive. You were here to shift something much bigger than yourself. They wanted to call it luck, but luck runs out. Yours didn't. They wanted to call it guessing, but guesswork doesn't produce consistent wins. And timing. They tried to explain it away with that. But how do you explain perfect timing every time? You don't guess your way into elevation. You don't luck your way into escaping sabotage. That's not chance. That's what it looks like when the universe has a favorite. And yes, that bothers them. It eats them. Because they tried so hard, worked overtime to block your path, sabotaged you, talked behind your back, created delays, planted doubts. And still, you rose, not through force, not through manipulation, but through alignment. While they were plotting, you were listening. While they were forcing, you were flowing. And nothing infuriates the ego more than watching someone rise by being instead of chasing. Let's talk about what's really bothering them. You seem to know before the knowing becomes public. You feel shifts before they surface. While they need charts, data, permission, you just move. You pull away from people before their masks fall off. You invest in your growth before the crowd catches on. And the best part? You don't explain it. You don't broadcast it. You just do it. That's what makes them uneasy. You don't speak in code. You speak in certainty. And it terrifies people who build their lives on uncertainty and control. But here's the part you need to understand. Chosen one, stop calling this luck. Stop playing small just to keep others comfortable. You were not built to blend in with confusion. You were designed to walk in clarity before it's visible to everyone else. You're a few steps ahead, not because you're better, but because your path was prepared. The universe whispers in your ear before it echoes in the world. And yes, they hate that. They'll never admit it, but they watch your every move. They see how things unfold around you like you already knew. And they're scrambling now, trying to figure out how you keep getting it right. But you're not even focused on them. You're too busy listening, watching, moving with purpose. That's the difference. They chase patterns. You follow alignment. So when you feel that deep urge to pause, to shift directions, to cut someone off, even when it doesn't make sense, honor it. That's your internal GPS syncing with something far bigger. That's how you stay protected. That is how you stay ahead. And no, it's not easy. Being chosen means carrying a kind of vision that gets lonely, that pulls you away from the crowd, that demands silence while others shout. But every time you obey that inner pull, you dodge what was meant to destroy you. And every time you trust it, you walk right into another win that shouldn't have happened. So they can keep calling it luck. Let them. But we know what it is. It's the universe clearing traffic for the chosen, and they were never ready for that. Number 3. They whisper because you see what their eyes can't handle. They've been watching you differently lately, quieter, more cautious. Not because you've said anything, but because they can feel that you know, and not just surface-level knowledge. You know the things they've buried, denied, covered up with fake smiles and loud distractions. You didn't ask for this sight, but you've had it your whole life. The difference now? It's sharpened, it's undeniable, and it's scaring the hell out of them. See, you walk into a room and read the tension in the air before anyone speaks. You feel the shift in someone's energy before their actions reveal anything. You know when someone is lying, even when their mouth says all the right words. That's not a good gut feeling. That's divine radar. That's what happens when the universe equips its chosen with vision beyond the veil. They think you're guessing, that you're making assumptions. But what they don't understand is you're not decoding behavior, you're absorbing vibration, and vibration doesn't lie. While they sleepwalk through life, distracted by noise and false narratives, you've been wide awake, watching, noticing, picking up the pieces they thought were hidden. Your intuition isn't a party trick, it's protection. It's prophecy in motion. It's the reason you dodged betrayals before they hit. It's the reason you've made choices that didn't make sense to others, but kept you aligned and ahead. Every single time. And yes, they've noticed. You ever wonder why certain people tense up when you walk into the room? Why they avoid eye contact or start over-explaining themselves? That's not paranoia. That's their guilt rising to the surface. They feel seen, not by your eyes, but by your energy. You remind them of what they've tried to keep buried. You are walking exposure. So they whisper, they glance, they watch you from the corners, hoping you don't speak, hoping you don't confirm what they already suspect, that you know what they did, what they said, who they really are behind the mask. You don't even have to say it out loud. Your silence is confrontation enough. You're not a threat because you're aggressive. You're a threat because you're accurate. You're a mirror with a heartbeat. And they don't want to be reflected. Some of them were bold enough to think they could outsmart you, that they could bury their intentions deep enough you wouldn't notice, that they could hide their envy, their sabotage, their manipulation. But they underestimated your sight. They thought this was surface-level chess. They didn't realize you've been studying the energy of the board the whole time. They forget you don't need the receipts. The universe shows you what's real without words. And when something's off, your whole spirit reacts. You might not have had proof in the traditional sense, but your knowing was always enough. And now the truth is surfacing, just like it always does. What's wild is they know you know. That's why they distance themselves. That's why they act strange. That's why they go quiet. People aren't scared of who you pretend to be. They're terrified of how much you really see. But here's where I'll check you, chosen one. Don't shrink that sight just to fit in. Don't numb your knowing just to stay accepted. You were never meant to be comfortable in circles built on illusion. Your vision is a gift, a responsibility. You were designed to call out what others can't even name. And no, it doesn't always feel good. Seeing truth in a world addicted to lies is a heavy burden. But it's what separates the chosen from the crowd. You see what others can't because you were built for clarity. You are the awareness they tried to erase, the proof they can't deny. And that makes you dangerous. They locked their secrets in mental vaults, thinking no one could access them. But you cracked the code with nothing but presence. And now, the vaults are rattling, the walls are closing in, not because you threatened them, but because truth always catches up. So walk with your head high. Don't explain yourself. Don't second-guess what you see. Don't dull your light to let others stay hidden in their shadows. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be real, to reveal, to remind them that energy never lies, and neither do you. Keep seeing what they can't. Keep knowing what they hope no one will. Because when you're chosen, your sight is your weapon, and you've only just begun to use it. Number 4, you were loud without a sound, and that's what broke them. Some people screamed to be seen, you just existed, and they felt exposed. Let's make one thing clear, they've always known. Not because you told them, not because you confronted them, but because your energy spoke volumes before your mouth ever opened. You didn't need to put anyone on blast. You didn't need to call them out. That was never your style. You just stood there, aware, calm, still. And in that stillness, everything they tried to hide started shaking loose. That's the part that's haunting them now. They thought they were safe because you never said a word. They mistook your silence for ignorance, your grace for weakness. But what they didn't realize is that when you're truly aligned, you don't have to react to lies. You outlast them. You weren't quiet because you didn't know. You were quiet because you already did. They're uncomfortable around you now. Have you noticed it? The stutter in their voice, the way they fumble for small talk, the way they avoid eye contact, like your gaze might expose something they buried. That's not coincidence. That's guilt. That's fear. That's the realization that while they were plotting in the shadows, you were watching, clear as day. You didn't say anything, but your presence was a full-blown confrontation. You didn't need a spotlight. You were the mirror, and some of them are still running from the reflection. It's wild, really, how they tried to manipulate the narrative, twist the facts, rewrite the past. And yet, here you are, unshaken, still grounded. Not because you didn't go through the storm, but because you became the storm's eye. Calm, focused, centered. While others spiraled in chaos, your stillness became your statement. And let's be honest, they hate that. They hate that after everything they did, you still have peace. That after all their efforts to provoke a reaction, you gave them nothing. Because silence isn't submission, it's power. And when you carry that kind of power, it speaks in ways words never could. You didn't stoop. You didn't scream. You didn't flinch. You just watched. And now they're spiraling, second-guessing everything they said, everything they did, replaying old conversations, wondering how much you picked up on, wondering how long you knew, trying to convince themselves that maybe, just maybe, you didn't feel the betrayal, didn't see the envy, didn't catch the lies. But deep down, they know. That's why some of them have gone quiet. That's why others are trying to rewrite history, trying to make you question your own memory, your own perception. Because if they can't control you, they'll try to confuse you. But it's too late for that. You saw what you saw, felt what you felt. And even in silence, you processed every detail. That's the gift of being chosen. You don't need proof to recognize truth. You feel it, and that feeling, that knowing, it's louder than any confrontation could ever be. They've tried to figure out why you didn't come for them, why you didn't clap back, why you never exposed what you know. But that's the thing. They were expecting a reaction. What they got instead was elevation. You didn't stay behind to prove a point. You rose above it, and that's what cut the deepest. You didn't have to drag them through the mud. Life is doing that on its own. Because when you're chosen, the universe handles the justice. It clears your path, corrects the energy, and brings the truth to light in due time. And your time is always right on cue. So let them keep wondering. Let them keep fidgeting when your name comes up. Let them stay paranoid, watching their words around you. They should be, because you didn't have to say a single thing, and yet they heard you loud and clear. And chosen one, if you ever feel like your silence made you seem weak, remember this: explosions are loud, but so are earthquakes, and those come from the inside. You don't need to announce your knowing. Your energy has already made the announcement for you. It walks into rooms before you do. It shifts the atmosphere. It changes how people act. That's power. So keep walking in silence. Keep moving with grace. Keep letting your presence be the revelation. Because while they scramble to cover their tracks, the truth is already echoing in their minds, and your calm is the sound that won't stop. And they've noticed. Oh, they've definitely noticed. Number 5. While they panic, you move like a tide no one can stop. When the world loses its grip, the chosen ones tighten theirs, without raising a single voice. Let's be real. They thought you'd break. They waited for it. In fact, some of them were counting on it. When the chaos hit, financial collapse, job changes, personal storms, they watched closely, hoping that this would be the moment you finally cracked, that the pressure would finally bring you down to their level, where fear runs the show and confusion is currency. But you didn't break. You barely flinched. While they were spiraling, you stood still. While they were frantically grabbing at solutions, desperate for guidance, you were moving quietly through the fire, calm, like it was part of your routine. And it wrecked them. Because you're calm. It wasn't just survival, it was power. It was proof that you weren't like them, that you weren't reacting, you were responding, that you weren't confused, you were tuned in. They started whispering things like, "They must know something we don't. They must have some kind of insider knowledge. They're probably just lucky." But none of that is true. You're not riding on luck. You're moving in alignment. You're not getting tips from some secret source. You are the source. And that's what unsettles them the most. The way you don't reach outward when the world collapses. The way your guidance comes from inside. That quiet certainty that others fake, but you embody. You don't chase the news, the trends, the opinions. You wait. You watch. You move with the wave, not against it. And when the tide rises, you ride it like you saw it coming all along. Because you did. That level of composure can't be bought, borrowed, or mimicked. It comes from being chosen. It comes from living in sync with something larger than the noise, the panic, the distractions. And they hate that. They hate how you don't need the system they worship. They hate that you can be still and somehow still rise. That while they chase control, you flow and still end up ahead. But let's be honest, there was a time you hid this. You once made yourself small, bit your tongue, downplayed your clarity, laughed off your insights just to avoid making people uncomfortable. You didn't want to be too much. You didn't want them to feel threatened by what you just knew. So you played along. You stayed quiet. You pretended to second-guess yourself just to make others feel smarter, safer. Not anymore. Because something shifted, didn't it? The universe started turning the volume up on you. Your dreams got louder. Your instincts got sharper. Your inner knowing, impossible to ignore now. You stopped asking for signs and started being the sign. And suddenly, staying small wasn't just uncomfortable. It felt unnatural. It felt like betrayal. Not to them, to yourself. You're no longer muting your gifts to fit their fears. You've stepped into a space where calm is no longer silence. It's a signal. Your presence alone says, "I know exactly what I'm doing." And even when you're not sure of the outcome, your spirit is. That's the kind of trust they can't wrap their heads around. That's the kind of faith that can't be faked. And that calm, that unshaken energy you walk with, it changes things. It makes people question what they thought they knew. It forces them to confront their own instability. It makes them feel your difference. Because while they flinch at every shift in the wind, you move like the ocean, deep, consistent, impossible to contain. And no one taught you that. You were born with it. You were simply waiting for the moment the world would give you permission to unleash it. Well, this is that moment. So keep moving with that eerie composure. Keep trusting that inner knowing. Keep being the one who doesn't break when the world bends. Because they're watching you, and no matter how much they pretend not to notice, they see the truth. You're not lucky, you're aligned. And you're calm? That's not peace. That's power in its purest form. Number 6. They stared, studied, and still couldn't crack the code, because you are the code. They watched your rise like it was magic, never realizing it was discipline wrapped in silence. Let's not play coy. They're watching, hard, closer than they ever did when you were quiet and invisible, when they thought they had you figured out, filed neatly into their little boxes. They told themselves you were average, that you were nothing special, that you were just another face in the crowd. And now, their mouths are hanging open. They don't get it, can't explain it, and it's burning them up. Where did that come from? Have they always had that in them? Wait, how are they doing all this so suddenly? Suddenly. Let's correct the record. There's nothing sudden about this. You didn't wake up powerful, you just stopped hiding. You've been building in silence, healing in the dark, sharpening in private. While they were laughing, doubting, whispering, you were becoming. And what they're seeing now? That's not a random burst, that's a reveal. They underestimated the storm because you moved like a breeze. They thought you were simple because you stayed silent. They confused your humility with lack of ability. And now that your light is breaking through the cracks they tried to seal, they're scrambling to understand what they're witnessing. But they can't understand it. Because your power isn't external. It's not a strategy. It's not a formula they can steal or a course they can take. You didn't get here by mimicking someone else. You got here by unlocking something inside that most people run from. And now that you've tapped into it, you're moving different, speaking different, existing on another frequency, one they don't even have the tools to hear, let alone decode. They pretend not to notice, but behind closed doors, they're watching everything. Your stories, your posts, your words, your growth. Every shift, every move, every piece of content is being studied, dissected, analyzed. They're desperately trying to reverse engineer your glow, hoping there's a step-by-step process they can copy. But there isn't. You can't copy presence. You can't fake frequency. You can't fabricate what was forged in fire. What you carry was earned, piece by piece, layer by layer. Through the battles they never saw. Through the nights you wanted to quit but didn't. Through the moments you stayed silent, not because you didn't have a response, but because you were focused on the long game. And now they want to imitate the results without living the discipline. They want your energy without carrying your scars. They want your presence, but not your pain. That's not how this works. They see your glow now, but they didn't see you rebuilding yourself in the dark. They weren't there for the internal war, the heartbreak, the detachment, the silence, the spiritual bruises. They missed the chapters where you were doubting your own worth. The nights you had to remind yourself who you are when no one else was clapping for you. But you clapped anyway. That's what created this. Not some secret weapon, just the audacity to keep going when everything in you screamed to stop. And that right there, that quiet audacity, that's what they can't replicate. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being unshakable when the room turns against you. It's about watching the same people who mocked your silence now study your every word like scripture. Let them watch. Let them scroll. Let them try to figure it out. Because here's the truth. What you've unlocked can't be taught. It can only be earned. It's an awakening, a rebirth, a shift that only happens when you've let go of needing approval, when you've stopped looking for validation, When you stop hiding the fire and let it burn, even if it makes people uncomfortable. They don't understand it now, but deep down, they feel it. They feel your energy move before you speak. They feel the pressure when you walk in a room. They feel their masks slipping just being near your truth. That's not something you learn. That's something you become. So don't waste time explaining. Don't dilute yourself trying to be digestible. You're not here to be understood by those still sleeping. You're here to awaken those with the courage to rise. They're watching, chosen one, and they still won't get it, because they weren't built for it. You were. Number 7, they called you quiet, not knowing you were tuning into frequencies they can't hear. When you stop talking, you start hearing everything they thought was hidden. They thought they had you figured out, didn't they? Oh, they're just quiet. They keep to themselves. A little distant, maybe even shy. They wrote you off, overlooked you, laughed it off like you were background noise in their loud little lives. What they didn't realize, you weren't detached, you were downloading, reading the energy, mapping the terrain. While they were speaking just to fill the silence, you were listening to everything their words couldn't hide. They didn't realize the most powerful person in the room isn't always the one with the mic. It's the one who doesn't need one. You've always operated on a different frequency, a higher one. And now it's becoming obvious. Your calm makes them nervous. Your silence makes them over-explain. Your insight, it cuts straight through the noise and lands with precision. You say little, but when you speak, it's like you've been living inside their minds. They think you're psychic. Cute theory. But the truth is deeper. You're not reading minds, you're reading energy, patterns, vibrations, inconsistencies in tone, shifts in posture, pauses that hold more truth than their confessions. While they think you're zoning out, you're actually zoning in, tuning into signals they don't even know they're sending. Because when you're chosen, you don't need someone to tell you what's wrong. You just feel it. And they're starting to realize that. That's why they're cautious now. Why they edit themselves around you, why their voice drops when you look them in the eyes, because there's no mask thick enough to block the frequency you're dialed into. You don't need receipts. They leak truth just by standing next to you, and they feel it. Oh, they feel it. You know things you shouldn't know. You sense shifts they don't speak about. You ask the question they hoped no one would think to ask. You say the exact words they didn't know they needed to hear. And that's why they can't shake you. That's why they keep you close, even when they don't know why. Because your energy does something to theirs. It disarms, it reveals, it clears fog they didn't know they were walking through. But here's what they've missed entirely. While they're busy watching you, trying to figure out how you became this version of yourself, they've ignored the most painful truth of all. They had the same potential. The very frequency you operate on isn't exclusive. It's available, but it requires work, silence, healing, reflection, detachment from ego. And that's the part they can't stomach. They want your results without your evolution. They want to shine without sitting in the dark. But you sat in it. You faced yourself. You dealt with the loneliness that comes with seeing too much, knowing too much, and feeling the weight of things most people ignore. You chose the higher road when you could have gone petty. You chose observation over reaction. You chose to understand rather than judge. And that's what elevated you. And now, Now everything you do has weight. People hang on your words, not because you speak often, but because your words land. You've become the type of presence that shifts the energy in a room without effort. And they don't know what to do with that. They can't label it, can't replicate it, can't control it. So they watch closely, some with awe, some with envy, some wanting to get close to your energy, hoping it rubs off, some hoping you never turn your focus fully on them, because they know, if you did, you'd see everything. But here's the beautiful truth. You're not here to expose anyone. You're not here to flex your knowing. You're not even here to prove a point. You're here to be a mirror, to remind others of what's possible when you stop tuning into noise and start tuning into truth. You don't need attention. You don't need approval. You are the frequency, and the ones who are ready to rise, they'll recognize it. They'll feel the pull, the shift, the undeniable knowing that says, this is something different. So keep moving like the storm no one saw coming. Keep listening, keep feeling, keep trusting that you don't need to explain yourself to people who aren't ready to understand. Because when you operate on a higher frequency, you stop needing permission to be powerful, and you start becoming unforgettable. Number 8, you didn't disappear. You just rose, too high to be heard by low frequencies. When you stop explaining yourself, the silence starts doing all the talking. They're losing their grip on the version of you they thought they knew, and it's driving them mad. Your silence has become its own storm. It's louder than their noise, sharper than their gossip, and more unsettling than any truth you could have spoken. Because in a world obsessed with oversharing and attention, the person who moves in mystery becomes the one they fear most. You don't need to say a word. Your absence from their chaos is presence in your power. You haven't stepped back. You've risen above. You didn't disappear. You ascended beyond the echo chamber they're still trapped in. And now, they're watching you with wide eyes and whispers, making up stories to explain what they can't comprehend. They must have come into money. They're probably in some secret group. Oh, it's a phase. They'll come back down. Let them talk. That's all they've got. While they spin tales, you're rewriting your life. While they sit in rooms built from ego and insecurity, you're building empires from alignment and clarity. Your transformation didn't happen overnight. It was forged in solitude. In moments no one clapped for. In silence, no one noticed. And now that it's visible, now that your elevation is too obvious to deny, they're realizing they misread you entirely. You weren't withdrawn. You were focused. You weren't passive. You were discerning. You weren't distant. You were on a different frequency. Every time they thought they had you figured out, you were already evolving again. You've been shape-shifting in plain sight while they watched with the wrong lens. And now they can't keep up, can't predict you, can't explain how you keep slipping through the cracks of their small-minded labels. You're no longer playing the part they wrote for you. You're writing your own script, one they were never meant to read. You've outgrown the need to be understood by people who only ever wanted to contain you. And no, it's not about revenge. It's not about proving anything. It's about remembering who you really are. It's about walking forward with such clarity that the past starts to fade behind you like mist. You didn't leave them behind out of bitterness. You shed them because that version of you, the one who tolerated less, settled more, dimmed your light to make others feel safe, doesn't live here anymore. And that's what truly unsettles them. Not just your growth, but the realization that you never needed them to grow, that your glow was never borrowed. It was just buried under layers of doubt, fear, and false connections. Now that it's out, now that your energy can't be dimmed, no matter how they twist the narrative, the story changes. You're no longer too quiet, too sensitive, or too intense. Now you're magnetic, mysterious, untouchable. But here's the twist. While some watch in fear, others are watching in awe. Because your path, the one you carved in silence, through darkness and detachment, is becoming a beacon for those ready to rise. To those still asleep, you're a threat. But to the few who are finally waking up, you're proof that the climb is possible, that awakening isn't a myth, it's a choice, and you made it. You are the mirror, the living reminder, the frequency that wakes something ancient inside people who forgot who they were. You don't scream your message, you embody it. And now, even those who doubted you are starting to feel it. They talk about you now because they don't have the courage to ask how you did it. Because asking means admitting they're still behind, that they're still stuck in the noise you escaped. But their soul knows. That's why they can't stop watching. That's why they can't stop wondering. And that's why they'll never see you the same again. You've remembered what they forgot. You've embraced what they ran from. You've become what they only dreamed they could be. And no matter what they tell themselves, nothing will ever be the same again. And so, here you are, clear, unshaken, fully awakened. The mask is off, the path is lit, and you're no longer shrinking to fit the places you've outgrown. Let them talk, let them watch. You're not here to explain, you're here to evolve. The chosen don't ask for attention, they command presence. And if this message hit home, it's because you were meant to hear it. Like this video, subscribe to stay aligned with this energy, and drop the number 77 in the comments to show you're wide awake. Share this with another chosen one. It's time they remembered who they are too.